were right. I finally found you. Though I would see your face in visions from time to time. This agreement is hard on me still. I don't know why we do it this way, why we choose to suffer over the freedom of the astral plane, over an expanded consciousness and boundless awareness. Why can't I forget you? I'm doomed to long after you with every birth, to chase you until I catch you, and when I do, bliss. That's from the Infinite Spark of Being, and I am Hadley Thorne with Wyrd Realities. Tonight, I'm here with Morgana Calder, Henry Tully from We're in the Fold, and my very special guest, my little sister, Miss Naqid. And we're going to be talking about reincarnation. But before we get started, I'd like to remind you to like, subscribe, follow Wyrd Realities. Check us out on our website, wyrdrealities.net, and that's Wyrd with a Y. Just from wherever you're watching, just let us know how we're doing and what things you'd like for us to cover. And Morgana, I'm going to turn this one over to you.
Yay! Okay, reincarnation goes back through history for thousands and thousands of years. Most religions, including early Christianity, taught reincarnation, and about 40% of the population around the world believes in reincarnation. It's the concept that your soul keeps returning again and again because you have lessons that you've needed to learn, and you choose what lessons you want to learn from one life to the next. The Buddhists and Hindus, it is an active belief. And like I said, it was taught in early Christianity, but when they started the New Testament, they started taking that out because that didn't align with what they were teaching at that point in time.
Well, that's what they do, Rob.
Yeah, that's right. That's exactly right. So anyway, one of my favorite subjects, just a question for everybody. Yes, no, maybe. Guys?
I believe, I think we repeat over and over again, sometimes moving with the same people, maybe sometimes moving on our own. But yeah, I absolutely believe.
I'm a true believer. I've had memories, I've had them since I was little. People who I've met that just have that resonance of home. Other people who, for no reason, have immediate, just uncontrollable dislike from. Things I can't explain, and yeah, I'm a believer.
Yeah. Tully?
I'm kind of mid. Like, obviously believe in like old souls. Like my mom, for instance. My mom is the most precious, gullible person you've ever met. And, ever since I was little, I was just like, my mom must be like brand new, like just getting the feet wet. But, I think I mentioned this a week or two ago, but I watched a video recently on YouTube called The Egg. And it's a very short kind of documentary style video. And it's actually about exactly what we're talking about. And it's really a strange concept. But I guess if I distilled it down into a core message, it would be that we're all, kind of broken out from the same energy, like that, which it goes a step further to say that we're all one being living simultaneously in every single life, which is a crazy thought. I don't necessarily go that far with my belief, but yeah, I'll say to an extent.
Okay.
I don't have any personal memories.
Gotcha.
Like for regression.
Mm-hmm. That's because you're blocking it.
Could be.
One of my favorite writers is Eckhart Tolle, and one of his quotes that I've got it on my wall is, "You're the universe expressing itself as a human for a little while."
Is that the power of now, guy?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. And that to me is what it is. I mean, I'm like Naqid. I have people that I know I've shared multiple lives with, and then, like I say, there are people that I've met one time and thought, oh my God, I hate this person, for no reason at all. And, over time, you either figure it out or you just don't have anything to do with that person. Because I don't think most people are inherently evil. I think that there is something there that causes that push away from you.
Okay, so I have a question for anybody who wants to answer.
Okay.
Do you think that everybody has a soul?
No.
I don't know. I would like to think that everybody has a soul, but sometimes when I'm dealing with the rest of the world, I wonder if they're just NPCs. If they have been given a role to play for this day, and I'm interacting with them for them to tell me what's next on my quest, and then they go to some little room and sit on a chair and wait for the next adventurer to come along. So
Yeah, that's kind of what I was getting at. Like sometimes it feels like, it's like a video I saw recently. Somebody was looking out into the airport and they're like, "There's no way that every one of these people is real," and they just like kind of panning around. And sometimes I feel the same way. I just like I meet people and I'm like, there's just nothing there really. And
yeah,
maybe that's super critical of me. Maybe they're just maybe they're not as engaged in like spirituality and stuff. So I don't know. I just wanted
Well,
to see what you guys thought.
have I ever told you about the frog?
You and damn frogs.
when
The
I was
ducks.
when I was living at Fort Bragg, it was really hard for me to live there because there was no magic. I mean, and I don't mean like hocus pocus magic. I mean like nature magic that you feel in your bones when you see a sunset. It just maybe it was, it really felt cut off. But I called my friend. I was like, "You don't understand. The frogs are just frogs here." And I think it's the same with people. That some people are just more. That there's just more there, and you feel it, and you sense it, and you connect with it. And then there are some people who they're just kind of almost like mannequins. They're just going through the motions. But I have also met someone who I'm convinced did not have a soul. He was a magic practitioner, and he would let this entity into him. And this is by his own admission. I mean, I'm not, this is him telling me this. But there was something about it that always disturbed me, and I realized it was he just didn't have that spark of life. Which, by that, and maybe y'all don't know what I'm talking about, but if when you see a corpse does not have a spark of life, and it looks different. It's waxen. It looks different. Am I
Well,
wrong?
so
No, you're
uh,
exactly. Go ahead, Tully.
sorry.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Well, and that's what I was going to say too. As far as some people just not having that feel. If he's letting something into him, I would imagine that it like would be pulling his life force and energy. So that I mean, yeah, I kind of think that makes sense. Or if there is a soul that's gotten so low, from sharing that space.
Well, it was
Yeah.
when he told me that, I thought, well, that explains because I just always thought of him as like a husk of a person,
Mhm.
just a hollowed out husk. And so I do, and that's one reason I think that people who dabble in magic of a esoteric type need to be very aware and very cautious before just letting something in.
Yeah. Have you ever heard that like even brand new humans have an inherent fear of mannequins?
No,
So like even little kids who haven't been conditioned to be afraid of mannequins have an instinctual fear of things that look human, but there's just a little something that ain't.
I've
And
heard that about clowns.
in order for that to be a human instinct, there had to be something in our past at some point that conditioned us to be that way for a long time. Now, what that may be, I'm not sure, but I just wanted to throw that out there.
I have heard it about clowns, not about mannequins.
I've seen it with the mannequins. I know what you're talking about. I mean, I've seen my son respond to them like, what is this? This isn't quite right. It's not even a person, really. It's not blinking. It's not breathing. There's no motion to a mannequin that there is to a living being. And even someone as young as a child would pick up on that. So
Mannequins still freak me out. If you can believe that. Like, out of
haven't-
all the things, right?
Look, I had a guy that he had come over to visit, and we were back in my bedroom, and he came back there, and I, for a long time, collected ceramic masks, you know, the like Mardi Gras masks and stuff. He
No.
freaked out because, oh my God, they have no souls. Look at the holes where their eyes should be. I'm like, they're ceramic, you know, they don't have souls, I promise
Nope.
you. But he would not set foot in my house after that.
Really?
We had to go to his house.
It's stuff like this that make me dream about porcelain dolls trying to kill me.
Yeah.
I respect that. I had a porcelain doll growing up, and I was very respectful to her. She never came off the shelf. I always said goodnight. It was, you know, a very serious relationship. And I left her at my mom's when I could.
Yeah, you know, my mom bought my daughter one of those when she was real little, and my daughter hated it. And like, she didn't want to touch it, she didn't want to do anything with it. And the way that she ended up being able to get rid of it, I came home one day and she had shaved all the hair off this doll and said, "Now it's ugly, I can't keep it." And it freaked her out, and it hurt my mom's feelings so bad. And I'm like, "Mom, not every little girl's a porcelain doll person, but you know, I respect the fact that she has a problem with it." So I don't know what ended up happening to it.
Hey Laura, hey Mark. Tonight we are discussing reincarnation and souls. And I am happy to introduce my little sister, Miss Naqid, is here with us. So y'all be nice to her. She's one of my favorites.
Hi.
Yeah, she's awesome.
Yes.
But anyway, yeah, like I said, you know, I'm the same way. Like I said, there are certain things that they do. They kind of freak you out even before you're old enough to know that they should. Like most people with clowns, you know.
Yeah, it was. I mean, for me, it was even when I was like 5 years old. My grandma had one of those dolls that stood on a pedestal that was like 4.5 feet tall. I used to have dreams about that thing chasing me around the house, and that thing definitely didn't have like bad juju because it was brand new. It just terrified me for some reason.
Yep. Yep. Well, you know, I always told my daughter after my dad died that her first child was coming back as my dad, and he was going to give her hell. I think I was wrong. I think it was her second child. I mean,
Well, timing.
yeah. And, you know, like I said, you know, he's got that same smile and everything. And just every time he smiles, I see my dad. And I'm like, yeah, I know who you are.
Well, I'm going to take the opportunity to segue into children in reincarnation because there are some incredible stories about children with reincarnation stories.
Absolutely.
And Naqid has one of the most interesting children I have ever met, but I might be prejudiced. But if anyone had a story of a past life, that kid's got one.
Really?
Yeah. My son was speech delayed, so he couldn't verbally tell us anything for a long time. Like, he was obviously trying to tell us stuff, but he just kind of sounded like an angry little munchkin trying to express a deep thought. So we're not real sure what it was, but he, like, from a very young age, he would walk around like he was carrying a gun, and like in that gun, I don't know, I'm not a gun person, so you'll have to forgive me, but in that soldier stance of carrying a gun and sweeping a room and coming around corners and stuff, and now he is obsessed with tank shows and all about tanks. And
I love his take. Y'all got him. That's awesome.
And he so I think at least in one past life, maybe a recent one, he was a soldier, but he's also really sweet and kind, but only recently has he been able to communicate with us like in a verbal way. And I don't know if he's moved past the stage of maybe expressing memories, but I know kids his age and younger who who have. I know Heather's got her own stories, but I've heard stories of kids being able to say, hey, I was this person in a past life and I did these things and this is how I died. And
Yeah.
he saw spirits and stuff when he was younger too. I don't know if he's still seeing them, but he would get freaked out in some areas of the woods and be happy to go down other trails and would wave at things in the forest. And so he's a cute kid, but he's definitely had his own
Didn't he
history.
used to see someone on the stairs?
Yeah, I wasn't going to tell that story, but yes. When we moved into our new house, I would say that the house is not haunted, but there would something that he would see on the stairs and he would say, monster, monster, and he'd run away. And even me, when I'd walk past the stairs, there was always that urge to look up. And I never really saw anything, but there was a feeling. And then about a year and a half after living here, my roommate goes, oh, by the way, the ashes are out of the attic. And we're like, well, what ashes? And apparently she had been storing the ashes of a friend up in our library up there. And we didn't know they were here. And and after she removed the ashes, those occurrences went way down. So I don't know if that was it or not, but it was. I was like, next time you bring body parts into the house, you must tell us. That's a rule. So.
Hey, look, Mo gave a girl a ride back. She was up in Michigan or Minnesota or one of those states, and it was one of the few times Stephen actually was on the road with them. And this guy was like, "Hey, is anybody going down south? I've given her a ride this far. She needs another ride." And they're like, "Yeah, she can come on. We'll give her a ride until we get off here." And she starts talking to her son, and it took him a little while to realize that she had his ashes in her bag.
Oh.
And she would sit there and talk to him, throughout the day and everything. Stephen was like, "Mom, that was really weird." Like, well, son.
I was gonna say that's kind of awkward.
Yeah. What do you say? Oh, hi, can we meet? So they just stayed quiet and let her do her thing and discussed it after they let her go. So, but go ahead.
I was gonna say I have a friend who, when she was pregnant, she first off wasn't supposed to be able to get pregnant. She had a huge fibroid in her uterus the entire time, was on bed rest. And when her daughter was about 4, she said, Mama, it was really crowded in there. This child also has made the comment to her of, well, the time before when I was with God. And she would talk about before she was born, when she was with God. And my friend was like, well, that's okay. And the same child also, again, she's about 5, I think, 5 or 6 at this time, and it was getting close. My friend's father was very ill and on hospice, and this little girl, she said something about Christmas, and she said, well, this is going to be the last Christmas we're all together. And they were like, what? and the dad died between Thanksgiving and Christmas. So, but I mean, there's a thing to be said about children being psychic and more connected. And I've seen shows about, this little boy. I want to say he was from Lafayette, Louisiana, who had this he would wake up screaming with these nightmares of being in a plane being shot down, and he would tell his mom to call him a different name, and the parents started researching, and they found all of the supporting evidence that he was a World War II pilot of a plane that there was only like so many in the Pacific, but he remembered being shot down in the Pacific, and they found the person that he supposedly was. They took him to the place. They said that after that, he came home and he went back to being a normal boy. He never talked about it ever again. But he had, up until then, he was wanting them to call him this name. All the art he was drawing was of the war.
Maybe that's when they forget to do the factory reset.
I've wondered about that. Or that's why he couldn't talk to us, is they were like, oh, we forgot some things. We're going to have to filter for a little while,
Yeah.
Well, you know, my grandmother told me when I was a kid that little spot right below your nose that's indented. She said that's from the angel telling you shh on your way down. And she was one of those people that would talk about, you know, woo things, and you know that was her explanation to that is when you're a child, you haven't been taught to forget things. You haven't been taught that things can't happen and that they're not real. So that, you know, that you're told before you come, you know, that's the reason children don't talk real early and things like that is because they could not survive in society, you know, as they got older, if they remembered all of it.
Well, we talked about this a little bit the other day, right? Like what angels actually look like. Could you imagine? Like it.
Yeah.
Big furry eyeball floating around.
Right.
Yeah, some kind of gyroscopic 3,000 odd angelic winged creature. I'm positive that people would be freaked out by that.
Oh, yeah, because you've got a preconceived notion of what an angel looks like and a devil looks like, or a demon, or evil and good. And, you know, my demon may be your angel, you know, because we've been conditioned, you know, to see things a certain way.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, that's my first memory that I can remember. I was about 4 or 5 years old, and it was on a battlefield. And I mean, I woke up, I was in the top bunk of a bed and ended up falling out. I woke up screaming, you know, and having a heart attack. But I was about 11 or 12 years old the first time I found a book on Scotland, and it showed the battlefield of Culloden. And that is what I was remembering. I mean, I could picture it just as clear as day.
See, were you ever like regressed? Is that, or
No.
did you do it to yourself, or do any exercises to remember anything else, or did you, was it one and done?
No, because I've got memories of several lives. And the thing about it is, it's when I'm more active spiritually, when I'm not letting mundane life take over, I travel better, you know, I dream better and everything. So there are times I've been like riding down the road and then just, it's almost like a drive-in, you know how the drive-in looks with the thing up on the screen. It's almost like seeing that in front of you. And it's just, you know, it resonates. And, you know, because I can tell the difference, like when I dream, if it's a past life dream or just, you know, a foo-foo dream, or if it's something that is prophetic. Because, you know, I've over the years dreamed a lot about people dying, and within, you know, a month or so they've died. So, but they each have their own unique feel. So, and I mean, I'm sure everybody has a different experience with it, but you know, when you, it's that same thing too with that deja vu and that remembering people, you know, and things like that. Because some people firmly believe you can only reincarnate as a human, and I don't believe that. I believe you can be many things.
Some people believe you can be reincarnated as different types of animals.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And, you know, I mean, I believe that, you know, we have thousands of parallel universes, and that where there's smoke, there's fire. So, I mean, you know, all of these different cultures across the world that have had beliefs in, say, dragons, these people have never had contact with other communities when they're talking about these things. So I think that all of that was here at one point, and I think that they've moved on elsewhere, but I think they're still there. No.
Well, there's a reason I wanted Naqid to be here tonight, because she has some of the most fascinating past life memories of anyone I've ever met.
I don't know about that. I know some of the people you've met, but
I
mine
said
are
some.
mine tend to be kind of like destinies of, well, either something strong and emotional is going on and it'll trigger something, or you're just kind of in a quiet state of mind and something will flash up and you're like, oh, okay. And, and it's almost like you step into a movie for 5 hot seconds and then you're back out and you're trying to remember everything that you saw or felt. And then you just move on with your day. Because I mean, that and $6 now will get you a Starbucks, I think. So,
Mhm.
but I've met people that the past life connections, and it's, in movies when the whole world stops and you just stare intently at the other individual and there's this rush or feeling. It's like that, and I won't even know why. And then, sometimes years later with people, it's that connection clicks into place, and they're suddenly a big part of your world. Sometimes your husband, um, sometimes your best friend. Um,
So is it like foresight?
I don't know, and I've wondered that too. I have memories from when I was very young, that I thought were past life. Um, but as I've gotten older, I don't know if my young mind was trying to make sense of something that was going to happen in the future and was interpreting it the best way it could with what it had to work with, or if it was a past life memory from another life, another world. So, it's one of those riddles I guess we're trying to figure out. Or if it's genetic memory, which is another thing. If it's not reincarnation, then I believe in genetic memory, one or the other. So,
Or a mixture of both.
or a mixture of both. I won't rule out anything.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I'll cover all the bases.
Well, that, and I know that we've all talked about in the past too. People talk about their soulmate, and I think that people get that confused. I think you have multiple soulmates. You have people that travel with you from life to life. Now it may not be every life, but I mean, like I said, you have that memory, you have that feel of, I've known you forever and everything. So, I think what a lot of people call their soulmate, that perfect person, they're thinking more of like a soul twin.
Yeah.
I'm gonna find something because I no longer believe in soulmates.
No?
No, and I mean, and I'm gonna see if I can find it. I'll let y'all read it and
Uh,
tell y'all why.
Yeah, I think soul family is a good description, but
yeah,
yeah,
yeah, I agree.
there's just there's some people that when you get close to them, I don't know, it's like harmony in music, I guess. Things just align, and it feels good to be with this person. Even if it's not someone you're romantically involved with, they bring you happiness or peace or whatever. Or in the case of what y'all were talking about, sometimes it is a disharmony, and this person shouldn't be in your life. And I don't know if that is past life recognition or future hazard recognition.
Or
Do
both.
do
Okay.
y'all subscribe to like astrological aspects of that sort of thing?
Yeah.
Because that, like, for me, the reason I bring that up, you just mentioned like soul family, but it seems like also a lot of like my best friends are kind of in the same charts as well, which is strange.
Have you ever done the what is it, the Myers Briggs test with your friends?
No.
Do it. Promise.
Hmm.
You'll be intrigued. Okay, so I found the quote. So this is by Elizabeth Gilbert, so don't laugh, but this it really resonates with me, so I want to share it. People think a soulmate is your perfect fit, and that's what everyone wants. But a true soulmate is a mirror. The person who shows you everything that's holding you back, the person who brings it to your own attention so you can change your life. A true soulmate is probably the most important person you'll ever meet because they tear down your walls and smack you awake. And I think that's the truth because it's only until you have been in a place where someone has torn you down do you really meet yourself. And only then can you move forward.
Hmm.
Well, I half agree with that.
What half?
Every part except for like the tearing down part. Like I think, like for me, it'd be more like someone who can give you constructive feedback rather than to like knock you down. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I agree. I mean, mate implies friend at the very least. And this sounds like someone who's maybe a challenge that you picked in the afterlife of I need to overcome these things and I want somebody to come in and provide me a hurdle to overcome them, and they step in as that role, which could be done out of love, but a lot of times it causes a lot of pain, and I don't think someone who really loves you wants to cause you pain. So
Morgana?
Yeah, like I said, I can see both sides of it because again, I think that the family that you carry with you, they can make you see parts of yourself that you normally wouldn't see, but then they're also the one that's going to catch you when you fall apart. So maybe that I think is more relevant than tearing down.
I like Elizabeth Gilbert though, so I'm not gonna laugh at you.
Well, no, I mean, but you also know my experiences. I have a habit of getting involved with narcissists, and it's
But
been a painful awareness.
that may be a life lesson that you're wanting to learn to deal with. And
I've dealt with it. I've moved on. I no longer believe in soulmates.
I've thought about that too. I was like, next life, I don't want to repeat this again because I think I've done it a few times now, and I'm done with this rodeo. So.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, look, I've decided that my last life I had tons of money and I did not treat people that were under me good enough. So in this lifetime, I'm learning to be a little more humble. But yeah, like I said, I some of the stuff that I can remember is fun. It's light, and it may just be small little bits and pieces. Sometimes it'll start small and it builds up. There are some things that I wake up and I can't get away from them because there's just something in there that I need to dissect and find out what it is I'm supposed to be seeing or learning or finding.
Well, I have found in this, which y'all, well, Morgana and Naqid were part of this, but during a part of my life when I was very much open, it seemed like the more people who you meet from your past, the more you remember.
Hmm.
But I don't know if I'm the only one of the three of us who's done this, but I've gone to two or three Salt Cave past life regressions. There were group past life regressions,
Hmm.
and it was very different, and it was really, really cool. And those, again, they were led by a hypnotist.
Is that like
And
a ayahuasca thing?
I wish no, it was a Himalayan salt cave, and it was just a group led hypnosis and just a past life regression. And so I went just to experience it, and it was so incredible that I couldn't wait to go back. And so I went to two or three, and that was pre-COVID. But I don't know if it was the salt cave. I don't know if it was the hypnotist, but it was interesting, and I had two very different memories. One of them was the weirdest memory I've ever had, and one of them made a lot of sense. It it was the one that was really interesting was I've always loved horses. It's never had a horse, always wanted one, loved them, just worshipped them as a child. And in the past life regression, I was a I hate it sounds so corny. I was like at the Spanish riding school, and I had a horse, which is like the big white Lipizan stallions. I was one of the trainers, and I had a special horse, and I got sick and died. But it was like all of that came through that life, and it was like the horse was so important to me. It was more important than my wife because I was a man in that life. And I don't really have that many lifetime memories where I was male. So it was really interesting. And like I said, it made a lot of sense to a lot of questions that I had from having lung problems to, because I died from pneumonia. And it was just incredible. But I mean, I could see that silly horse just as clear as
So,
day.
if y'all can remember past lives, can you remember the gaps in between lives?
I don't know if it comes across is true memory or if it's intuition of what I think is true, and that's why I think it's true because it's kind of in there somewhere. Where and Destiny kind of talked about it. I'm sorry, Morgana,
Yeah,
when
you're
Hey,
we
Ellen.
when we started out, and it was of you're back there, you're picking what you want to do in your next life, and then they drop you in, so to speak. And I kind of have always felt that way since I was younger, that you kind of pick your next adventure, so to speak. And but it's intuitive for me. It's not like someone ever taught me that.
Right. I'm just thinking about somebody being like, you know what? Ted Bundy sounds like a really cool character this go around.
Well, have y'all read? It travels around the internet every so often, but it's where you're every person that's ever been born, and you're the bad guy and the good guy and the child and the old man and
Yeah, that's what I was talking about earlier.
yeah. Okay, so I don't know if that's the case of you're experiencing all the good and all the bad and that extension of the universe, and so yeah, some guy picks Ted Bundy and or you're just cycling through everyone, but
Yeah.
Well, see, there's also a lot of I guess conflict or disagreement about what you can come back as, how you can come back. And I actually, one of the things that someone told me one time, I'm like, okay, that's the biggest bunch of crap I've ever heard in my life, was that you could only, once you chose a human life, that was all you could do from then on in until you had learned everything that you needed to learn as a human. But the subject came up about, well, a lot of people, Indian and everything, feel that, you have to be respectful to animals, plants, everything, because you could come back as anything. And this person's concept was that if an animal evolved enough, the animal's soul, that they could come back as human, but they were going to be, a broken human. So they might be a serial killer or somebody with severe disabilities. And I think that's bull. I don't agree with that at all. But it was just I had not heard of that before. I've heard several people since then make the same comment, but I just thought that was strange, that you would, Ted Bundy was a dog in his last life. I mean, along that line
Yeah.
and everything. So, and that's not to say that Ted Bundy wasn't a dog, but I just don't think that that's the prerequisite for evolving past animal.
It's so crazy because I feel like we definitely could spend the whole time just talking about like the superficial part of this.
Well, I could just talk about Ted Bundy.
Yeah, or just Ted Bundy. But like when you start adding all of these other different components and layering all of this together, so not only do you have like the past life regression, how you guys can remember um, different aspects of your previous lives, but then when you start to layer in spirituality, you know, all of the different deities and influences that may be various components of that, just rattling off the top of my head, just any sort of like ritualistic, um, you know, things that people do to enhance one thing or another, or even to the extreme of like human sacrifice in the ancient days. You know, all of that was to create a means to an end, I guess, and all of that kind of strikes me as interesting, especially because they used to sacrifice children and stuff like that, and when you start to layer in those kind of components into how it all works, that's kind of what perplexes me about all of it personally, as someone who can't remember their past life.
As much as you meditate, you've never tried.
Um, you know, most of what I've done is just astral work, but no, I've never looked into the beyond the veil of myself. At least
Something happened with your sound.
say what?
Oh,
There
I
you
thought
are.
something happened with your sound.
Did it go out?
For a second.
Oh, okay. I don't know what's going on.
You were having a Scott moment.
But I will say, as I get older, and it could be, part of what Morgana was talking about a minute ago with just letting life blindside you, but part of me feels like the connection was stronger when I was younger, and I have to really fight for it as I get older to keep it as sharp as what it used to be. I don't know if you all feel that way or not.
Tell me more about what you're saying.
Um, well, just even astral work, for instance, like if you wanted to go into a meditation, or if you're doing it before sleep, or in the afternoon, you're just laying down trying to do it. Like I find it harder these days to kind of get to the same level as fast of whatever type of work I'm doing. Even if it's just straight meditation, not that I can't focus, but that I'm just not going as deep as I used to be.
When
And
did that start?
uh, probably 5 years ago, I noticed it start. Just like I said, it's not that it can't happen. I just gotta really put more effort into it.
Well, I noticed now, and this is going off topic just a little, but I know you know that I do the shamanic journey, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, when the pandemic started, I did it every day. Every morning I got up, I did a shamanic journey every day. And as time went on, and I'd say that I probably did it for a good 3 months, but as time went on, it became harder and harder. It's like going through molasses, wading through molasses, trying to get to that same spot. And I think it has something to do with the ongoing stress levels. And I'm not going to say like just my stress levels, but the universal stress levels that everybody's putting out, I think
Well,
has kind of
I have a
put.
theory of cause if you want to hear it. It kind of dips into conspiracy world though.
Okay, not conspiracy world.
It could definitely it's always conspiracy world with me. But my how I kind of feel about it, obviously it is in your control, and like you said, it's just more effort for the same result. But I honestly think that all of the chemicals that we eat and drink have a part in it. I also think that all of the waves that are in the air now have a lot to do with it, because we're electrical vibrational beings. And when you think about how much the sheer amount of waves that are going through the air has increased over the last 10 years, that could interrupt your own vibration. I think there's a lot of factors. um I'll give an example. Like, one of them is, people say that fluoridation, you know calcifies your pineal gland, as an example. And now, obviously, I'm not an expert in that. I have no idea whether it's real or not. But I can tell you that, especially here in the United States, there are a lot of food additives that are illegal in other countries for good reasons, and we're eating those on the daily.
Yep.
We're drinking them. So that's what I kind of sum it up to, especially the brainwaves thing. Like, if you sleep next to your phone and your phone has signals and stuff coming in, all night, or if you're trying to meditate and you've got your phone next to you, that could have something to do with it. But I don't know. That may sound crazy. I'll let you guys opine on that.
Well, I mean, I agree in the sense too that, there's so much stress in the world right now. Add to that chemicals. And I know, the older you get, the more medication you end up taking
Oh
if you,
yeah.
if you do right. And, so many of those things. At one point a couple of years ago, it's about a year and a half ago, they had changed up a bunch of my medications, and I was having horrendous nightmares. I mean, not about monsters. They were all human monsters, But, and then I started researching what they had changed everything to, and three of them, one of the major side effects was bad dreams, you know. And I'm like, okay, so now I'm taking three things, that
Right.
all cause this. So we ended up having to change some stuff up because, I mean, it was horrible and everything. So, and then, like I said, you can't turn on the TV without, going into a meltdown half
Yeah.
the time. So I think that the signals that are out into the world right now, because you've got so many people that hate so many people. So it's like, I know that Hadley's like this, and I know that Naqid used to be this way too. I can't function around someone that's negative all the time. It affects me on a physical level.
That's funny. We were talking about that today. That um, people, if it was really bad when I was like in high school and I didn't know anything about it,
Mhm.
but the emoting of other people's strong emotions, I would lose myself in them because I
Mhm.
am so sensitive and didn't know
Yep.
how to protect myself. And
That's when I self-medicated.
yeah, so but I mean, actually, Jennifer and I were talking about it earlier about how we had a friend, and she had a lot of issues. Her dad had been killed in a car fire,
Mhm.
and she had a lot of issues. And I said when I was with her, I was reacting to the same stuff she was. And I mean, my parents were together and didn't have any of that. But I got lost in what was going on with her, and that would happen periodically throughout my teens until later. But it's also one of the reasons that I'm not going to say I avoid people, but I prefer my solitude.
Mhm. Yep.
Well, did we lose him altogether now?
No, I'm
Okay.
still here. I just didn't want you to have to see me struggling with allergies and Kleenexes.
Oh, thank you for saving us.
I'm kind of with the opposite. I don't push to have experiences anymore. I more suppress as much as I possibly can. Um, Partially because picking up on emotions, as y'all talk about, is very draining.
Mhm.
Uh,
Probably,
So you
especially with a
suppress it?
5-year-old.
yeah, I suppress it. I don't. Experiences can start having effects on your life that you can't control.
I feel
And
like that would be like if you were a Jedi and just shut it
She is
all
a
out.
Jedi. She is, man.
whatever. So, I yes, it can be like that. So there are some outlets. I mean, you don't want to clog yourself up so that you eventually explode in another direction, but um, you invite things into your home, into your life, and then they can take over, and negative things can start happening. Negative people get drawn in by it. Um, I have a child now who has his own. He's going through his own dreams and issues that I recognized I had in my childhood. So I spend a lot of time trying to lock down the house and not invite things in and not let them see that bright shiny star that he is and get lured in by it and not. So I don't spend much time. I do a little tarot reading. I commune with nature, but I don't meditate seeking stuff anymore. I meditate to quiet my mind. Um, and I talk to Heather some, but it's not how it was when I was younger and I was looking for answers. Now I'm more
Well,
trying to protect
that
what I
Heather,
have.
she's a cool girl, isn't she?
Mhm.
She is a
She
cool
is.
girl. So, um,
I wish she could have made it today.
Me
Yeah.
me too.
too. Yeah.
So,
Yep.
yep.
But yeah, and I get that too because, like I said, I've gone through stages where I've caught myself so locked down that it was affecting me. And it goes on for a while, and you're like, okay, why am I feeling this way? And then you realize, because you've got this big brick wall up around you, and while you need some kind of shielding in place, you can overdo it, and it causes more problems than not.
Yep, you end up turning into Voldemort at that point.
Well, when I was
You'll let me know if my hair falls out.
when I when I was taking care of my mom, it was a whole new set of stuff because and that's one of the things that I'll say. A lot of people, you will never know what it's like until you live with someone who's on hospice. That death is with you every day. And seriously, my mom came real close to passing away, like at the end of May in 2020. And she did not die until January of 2021. But she was close. And there were family members who have passed who were here. And when I say, I say that as a firm believer, she could see them and she could talk to them. And I was talking with my friend Tracy, the shamanic practitioner and Reiki master, and she said, your mom isn't where you are anymore. You got to realize that. And she was pulling all that stuff over here with her.
So, what about? So if you had other family members there, what's the turnaround time? Like you think it's different for everybody, like depending on how you lived?
When people are in hospice and they start seeing dead people and they're talking to them like they're there, it's because they've come to take them away. And my mother was too stubborn to leave. And when
Right.
she did, this is so crazy. You just have to know my mom. When she did not go within the specific time period that they were over here, they all finally left. Each family member that was here waiting for her, except for my father, had a baby born in their family. And they all left to go be with their family that, the new arrival was. And when they started showing back up is when I knew it was getting close again. And she died within a couple of days of, slowly the whole family being back.
So I guess that's what I'm saying is like the family. How long? How are they hanging out? You know what I mean? Like if rebirth is the process, in which I don't know how long that would take. Like maybe there's things. That's why I asked about the in between earlier.
I don't think that it's necessarily set. And I know as I've remembered stuff, it's never been like, okay, here I was in Russia in the 1400s, and then in 1503 I was here. It's never been that way. Mine has kind of jumped all over the place as far as my recall. And I do think that it's a choice whether you come back or not.
Well,
I don't think you have to necessarily. I think some people hang out as guides.
well, and I'll, in my personal experience, and this is just my experience. Everybody's is different. Um, First off, let me say time is not linear. So,
I was going to ask that. I was going
yeah,
to bring that up.
it's a spiral. It's that's why we have the spirals and all the Celtic stuff. But I have had friends pass, and depending on what was wrong with them, they'll come to visit me on the other side at different times. I used to believe that I wanted to be reincarnated. I mean, not reincarnated. God, what is it? Cremated. Cremated. Sorry, reincarnated. That's what we're talking about. Topic. Anyway, I used to want to be cremated, but I know a guy that I used to date that if anybody was going to be cremated, he probably wouldn't have wanted it to be him. And it took him probably 6 months to come see me on the other side. And I think it took him that long to, and it's not something I truly understand, but so I don't know if your spirit has trouble pulling itself back together. But it took him a while before he was ready. I had another friend that died in a car fire. same thing. It was a long time before he was. It was like he was putting himself back together piece by piece. And this is a childhood friend of mine, and so I would see him, and usually I'll see people who I know around the when the veil's thin around the turn of the wheel, like whether it's around Samhain or the you know the midsummer or whenever the veil is thin is usually when I'll run into people that I know like their spirits when I'm out traveling. But I know with my dad, when I saw him again, he had been so ravaged with sickness. He had had cancer. It took a while for him to fully come back. But then you have people who, it's like it doesn't take them any time at all. And so you have to wonder if it has something to do with whether it is the mental wear and tear on their body, or on their soul. I'm not sure if I'm making sense.
Yeah, I think so. I just, especially like when we were talking about the old man's spirit who was in that house a few episodes back. Like, the old man had died a long time ago, but he was still, hanging out and was very malicious. And, maybe it's the hate that kept him there. But I'm just like, is it all just kind of go at your own pace of personal growth, or is it like in A Christmas Story where Santa Claus eventually kicks Ralphie down the slide?
Well, you remember when my mom passed, I told you that Tracy did
Mm-hmm.
a like kind of guided her soul across, and when that happened, my mother told her, and you just have to know my mother was a very interesting individual, but she had had a stroke, and so she wasn't really herself for a number of years. But when Tracy saw her and was able to tell me what my mother had said and the experience, Tracy never met my mother when my mother was well. And she only met my mother once, ever before my mother passed away. And she was telling me what my mom said, but my mom could not believe. She looked at her, and I had been telling my mom, because, I'm all about transparency. And I was like, because my mom she was raised where she believed that the afterlife could be a scary place. And I was like, it's not like that. It's not like that at all. It's what you make of it. And I said, it's going to be beautiful. And my mom told her that she did not know it could be like this. And she was having, like, her spirit was flying all over the place. And it was just incredible. And it, I have not mourned my mother like I did my father because of it, because I know that she is much better. But that was the whole thing, was, she was no longer suffering, she was more herself. So, like I said, I don't see death as a bad thing. I think we do reincarnate if we want to, but I think it's kind of when you're ready and if you're ready, you know. I personally think there's a reason we're all here now. I think we chose to live during this time.
Do y'all want to hear a scary story?
Well, of course,
Okay.
Tully.
Now that you've told a really awesome story that has me emotional, I figured we could just drop down into the ditch for a minute. No, but Hadley, that like to hear that, even I can't imagine like the feeling, but that's just something that I always think about, because you do hear about things lingering like that, like in that Ed and Lorraine Warren case.
Hmm.
And that just kind of gets the wheels turning in my head, because I am from a really small town. Naqid, I don't know if I mentioned that earlier. Um, and obviously, you guys remember that people used to have in-home wakes,
Hmm.
And before there was a funeral home in our hometown, um, there was a house that everybody just had like, you know, 24-hour wakes in. And eventually the house became a residential house, like, and it stopped being like the community wake center. Um, and when I was younger, I had an opportunity to stay in this house, and there's a really old man who came and talked about it, and he knew the person that I'm about to talk about, but the person was super spiritual, super. You were talking about soulless earlier, very descriptively similar to that, but the lore was that this individual could make, uh, how do they put it? Tables walk and chairs dance, is how they said it. And whenever he was about to pass away, his last words were um, "Don't bury me, let the turtles come and get me." And nobody knew what it meant. And when he died, the next day they had to beat literally turtles off the porch, and they said that there were thousands and thousands of them trying to get to his body. So it's stuff like stories like that, which like that person had witnessed. Um, is another reason why I brought up earlier, kind of the spiritual component of energy and intention, and what kind of people we are as individuals, and how that impacts our queue time into another life. What kind of afterlife we have, maybe what kind of next life we choose.
I love that story. I love the turtles.
Well, I'll tell you what, the house wasn't a joke. The house wasn't a joke at all. Very few places and very few things kind of shake me like that. I've been to a lot of haunted places, um, and it was just the energy there was nuts,
So when we
absolutely
come
nuts.
on our field trip to Kentucky, you're going to take us to this house.
I don't even know if I could get. I could probably get to the house, but I don't think we could get in the house. How I ended up there, it was a high school buddy's grandfather who is no longer living. It was his house.
Does anybody
But
live there now?
the last time I knew about it, which was, probably 15 years ago, it was not abandoned, but the family just didn't let anybody in. I mean, they could have sold it by now, I guess. But down here in the south, in my south, there, I don't know if it's like this in Mississippi or in Tennessee, but on old country roads, there's like these large. It's usually in like either a three-way or a crossroads. Big old Victorian looking, really big old white houses,
Yeah.
almost like a plantation house, except there's no plantation. And this house was like that. It was just large enough to where, I guess, a congregation of people who, if the wake wasn't going to be at a church or something like that, that people could come and everybody could stay. Lots of bedrooms. Yeah,
I think we could get in.
That's what I'm thinking. And I'm thinking, I bet we go and there's a turtle and we all freak out and run.
listen, any house that I see like that, I just automatically assume it's haunted because they're all ancient, and I'm sure that even if it's not anything sentient, there's at least going to be some energy footprints.
Oh yeah, because most of those houses were built around before the Civil War, and there's got to be energy from all of that.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. Even where I don't think I've ever shared this. Where I got married, there's it's a house sort of like that, and there's cannon holes in the walls in the house.
Did you pick it because of that?
No, I didn't figure that out until later on. They were telling us about the history and stuff when we went there, scope it out.
Cool.
Sorry for derailing the conversation. Like I said, I just wanted to
No.
hit the ditch for a second.
Well, no, I think that may be a good segue for past life. When you're drawn to certain places, is it because you spent a past life in that area and that's why you're drawn there? Or is it, again, ancestral genetic memory? You know?
Well, I think sometimes that could have because I know everybody I've ever known has wanted the pyramids in Egypt. I have no interest at all in the pyramids in Egypt.
Neither.
I do have a connection though to the pyramids in South America.
Really?
Yes,
Do
I have.
tell.
I have actually two memories. One, I was a priest and I was making a sacrifice, and then like a year later, the one that came to me was probably either the next life or the life before that because it was the same general time period. I was the sacrifice.
Well, that seems fair.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not Mayor Fuel.
Well, Naqid, tell us one of your past lives.
Oh, called out. This one's very short. I don't have any information about it except for the glimpse that I had. I am sitting in a room. I would say that based on the dresses, it was probably around Tudor time periods. I am sitting in a chair. I can't see myself, and there's a girl before me, and she is spinning around showing me her dress, and she's super excited, and it's like she's come out of, I can't think of the phrase, but basically she's entered womanhood, and she's still really young, but she's out of the
It's like a
classroom.
like a
Yeah.
quinceañera.
I'm
Except
sorry.
not like a quinceañera.
Yes, except that it was European.
Right.
Well,
Like
Caucasian.
a rite of passage or something.
Yeah. It was very short, very flash. I knew I loved her and adored her. I was also female. She was very excited, and it was just this brief moment. And then it went on, and I felt it all day. I still feel it looking back at the memory. Like I can feel that warmth in my heart. But other than that, I don't know who I was. I don't know who she was. I don't have any more details than that. And I haven't pushed for them either, but that's just one moment. So
Hadley.
I told y'all about the horse. I can still see a horse. No, one of the first real I was somewhere and had one past life memories. There's a place down the Natchez Trace. I had never been south of Jackson on the Trace before, and there's an old church, and it was my first husband and I. We were walking. There was, like I said, the old abandoned church, and there was a cemetery back behind it. And we were walking around the corner, and suddenly it was like I was lifted up, and it was like I was a bird flying over, and I could look down at myself. And it was like the early 1800s. I had on a purple dress. I had on a black hat. And it's like I had been at church. And it was very weird. The whole way down to this place, it was like I knew every turn in the road. Even though it looked different, I knew where I was going. And it was very, very weird. It wasn't just me that had was having this connection to the place, and my ex-husband looked at me and he said, I did something really bad here. And he didn't know what it was, and that's all he said. Well, later, more of the memory came back, and I was murdered there, and that was who murdered me. It was him and two other men. And the person I was married to at the time is the person, in that lifetime, my husband had paid to have these robbers kill me. And he just happened to be one of them.
Wow.
So that's when you talk about past life connections and misunderstanding those connections. I mean, I've done it all.
Maybe I just don't need to. You know what I mean?
No.
But I will tell you something, Tully, and they'll probably say the same thing. The more you're around people that are open and you're talking about it, the more apt you are to start experiencing that. Because when we all used to hang out all the time, it's like every day something was going on.
Doors open when the right people
Yes.
come together.
Yep. Absolutely. So we could be a bad influence on you.
Yeah.
Well, as long as I ain't getting murdered and all that,
Yet
we'll
I
be
cannot
Well,
make
I mean-
that promise.
you know,
But I remember a lot about that life, and it was a very short-lived life for me. But both of the man that I was married to in that life, I have been with him, and the man who killed me in that life, I've been with him. So I've met both of them.
it's
Yep.
wild.
People have a tendency to come around, and one of the things that I'm one of those people, I've had a number of people tell me that they remember me from past lives, and actually it was Naqid who, because I said, I just don't know why all these people know me. And she said, well, you could have been very important to them, you know, and you just might not, you might not have known. But, there was a time there, and she can vouch for me that, like, I swear everybody I met knew me from a past life. I was like, well, who the hell was I?
Well, we always said you were the nut gatherer.
I know.
or the cat herder. I mean, you had so many monikers. So, and and that's a thing too. Certain people draw other people.
Well,
You
and
know,
and just so you know, Tully, we were talking about a couple of weeks ago on one of our shows. We were talking about going past the veil and people who have they wake up with bruises and they remember being in battles. And I said I have a friend who, not just her, but like all the people she knows, they do this.
Yeah.
That's Naqid.
Okay.
And I will segue over to you, Naqid, to kind of tell him, because you do much better than I do with that. But we were talking about how that is a thing and it happens.
Yeah, I wouldn't say all the people I know, but there are a lot of people in my life that have experienced it too. But it's kind of how I met Hadley, actually, is I had moved away from home, and after I moved into this apartment, I started waking up with scratches in places I couldn't put them, and having really intense dreams and that sort of thing. And then we had a mutual friend who put me in touch with her because he thought she could advise me on how to handle that situation. And she did. She taught me to shield. And when I was younger, my mom had taught me to pray. And I think that's what it protect me when I was younger. But I'd moved out of my home and didn't have any defenses anymore. So, and now as I've gotten older, there's some times where you just, I mean, you can't stake your life on this, but you have dreams, and then you wake about fighting or dealing with stuff all night long. Just sometimes it's not as clear as being in like armored combat with somebody. You're just wrestling the dark or pushing something back, and you wake up tired and sore, and you have bruises and interesting locations, and you just
I can relate more with that, I think, than past life recall.
well. There's probably correlation between both, though. You just have an area that you're more open to than the other. So.
Yeah, I get that.
Can I ask you something, Naqid?
Yeah.
Does he remind you of Jeff?
Maybe. I mean, this is our first time meeting. It's kind of a hard call. He reminds me of somebody, but Jeff wasn't who I was thinking of. So.
I was thinking like visually, like the little happy eyes and.
Oh yeah, I can see that.
I'm about to turn my camera back off.
It's a compliment. We love Jeff.
yeah.
Well, on that note, I'm going to call it a night. It has been an incredible conversation, and Naqid, I hope you will come back.
Yeah, we'll have to do this again.
You're always welcome. Just let me know.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, we could even do a larger group next time.
Yeah.
I'm sure. Like we were talking about getting Tracy, so maybe we could do. do like a big.
Oh, well,
once-
before we go, let me just tell that story. Well, I'll let Naqid tell that story of Tracy and my soul retrieval when you did the drumming.
I remember the experience, but I'm not sure what you want me to talk about.
I was just going to say what you saw when you
Oh,
were doing the drumming.
the I don't know. It was drumming, meditating, and what I visually saw was there was a natural stone altar in the plains, and I'm drawing a blank on some of the details, but that's the main thing I remember. And I remember people moving around the altar, and you were on the altar, but I don't. And it's altar may not be quite the quite term, but I'm trying to give a visualization. But
We'll talk again when we have Tracy.
yeah, I'm sorry.
No, this has been great.
Yes.
And in closing, I'm going to give it one more quote. Reincarnation is one of the fundamental laws of the universe. To deny reincarnation is as strange as denying the law of gravity. It would be wise, at least, to research it. We all have the information at our fingertips.
I like that.
I know, isn't that great?
Yes.
On that note, I'm going to say thanks for listening. You can find Morgana and Tully. Well, you can find us every Friday, probably here. Or Tully, what are you going to start back at Where in the Folk?
We are. It keeps getting pushed back. I told you that. So what the grill Cecil the next time he's on to figure out when we're going to fire back up. But it's definitely going to be World's Fairs, Mystery of the 1800s episode. And I believe prior to that, he's going to start releasing some content within the next week or so for previous episodes that we've done.
Cool.
And that's just Where in the Folk on Twitter.
All right. Well,
Awesome.
as you know, you can find us on Fringe FM, and that's going to be on Friday nights at 6 p.m. Pacific time. And as always, you can find us on our Facebook, Twitter, all the places using our link tree, and that's linktr.ee/Wyrd Realities with a Y. Until next time, guys, stay weird.
Bye.
See ya.
Bye.